Good afternoon, folks. How are you doing today?
Good, you? Good.
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Good to hear that everybody else is doing well, too. Welcome to the Upper Gun Platform. My name is Adam. I'm joined up here by Peter. Everybody say hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, everyone. All right. Thank you. Very friendly crowd. That's good to see. Peter and I will be your gun crew for you this afternoon. We're going to show you the proper way to clean, load, prime, and fire this 1841 6-pound smoothbore field gun you see behind you. I'd like you to repeat that back. Not even going to try, huh? Well, luckily for you, most people would actually just call this gun a 6-pounder. Why do you suppose they call it a 6-pounder? The gun weighs 6 pounds.
The shell weighs 6 pounds?
The shot that it fires weighs 6 pounds. 6-pound round shot, solid iron projectile, cast iron. We'd be able to fire that gun, or fire that 6-pound ball from this gun platform with 20 ounces of black powder behind the ball, all the way out to Round Island. It's about a mile away. Now, at a mile, at the maximum range of this gun, the smallest target that I can say we can reliably hit is about the size of Round Island. This is not a very accurate gun at all. Even at our accurate range of half a mile, which is just to the end of the stone breakwater out there, a well-trained gun crew would be expected to hit a 100-foot-long stationary target if we convince that Arnold Ferry out there to stop for us at half a mile, present its broadside, and sit there while we shot at it. We'd be expected to hit that target about one shot out of every 3. Again, accuracy is a fairly relative term. There's no rifling in the barrel. It's a smoothbore aspect. It doesn't give any spin or stability to the ball when it comes out. In fact, they actually make the ball slightly smaller than the bore. It means that you can reload it quite a lot faster, but that also means that when it fires, it rattles around the inside of the gun. The last bounce will send it one way or another. So it's kind of like throwing a football sideways. We know it's going to go somewhere out there, kind of. We can predict the circle that it will be in, but aside from that, that's really as close as we can get. Now, to further complicate matters, this is already a 40-year-old gun by the time it's up here in the 1880s. It's very, very underweight for the time period. It's very out of date. By the 1880s, they were already starting to have breech-loading artillery that could fire much larger shells, much, much farther, and much more accurately. We've got kind of this 40-year-old, very out-of-date, underweight, useless piece of artillery up here on a field carriage when it should be mounted on a garrison carriage. And it's manned by infantry soldiers, guys who are not trained to fire them in combat. Well, how important do you think Fort Mackinac is by the 1880s? Not that important at all. We're not really ever expecting to defend the place from an imminent Canadian invasion. We're not really expecting to do much combat at all up here. We're actually up here to steward the National Park. There's no National Park Service at the time, so soldiers filled in that role. That was essentially the whole reason that we were here. So as such, there's not a lot of cause for firing cannonballs up here. The last time that any cannonballs were ever fired from this gun platform was in 1814, when the British were firing at American vessels. As much as we would all like to, we're not going to reenact that today. If we were firing at American vessels, they certainly wouldn't be shooting back. They'd just be those ferries out there. And how many people came here to ferry today? Or yesterday or the day before? How many people would like to leave in a ferry at some point? Right. So if we started putting holes in all of them, it'd probably be a little illogical, get into a lot of trouble, and we're not exactly inconspicuous up here. So, what we're going to do now is step back and fire one of those salute charges that they'd be firing back in the 1880s, something they fire twice a day. Once when the flag goes up at reveille, once when the flag comes down at retreat. They also fire for holidays, special events, special visitors, things like the 4th of July. You get the idea. In order to fire one of these salute charges, though, they generally need a crew of 3 men. Peter, can you see? I guess there are other guys on lunch or something. So, I guess we'll need a volunteer from the audience. Anybody? How about you? Come on up. What's your name?
Trinity.
Trinity. You can step around the tail spike here. Trinity, what hand do you write with?
Left hand.
Left hand. You better use your right thumb then, just to be safe. Give me your right thumb. Come on over here. Put that on your thumb. I'd like you to use that to cover up this hole here at the back of the cannon. Welcome to the U.S. Army. You'll be doing this job for 5 years. All right. Now, what Trinity is doing is called thumb stalling. That leather patch, she's covered up the touch hole at the rear of the gun. This is the first step in the cleaning process. She's going to stop airflow from getting into the breech or out from the breech. This actually helps us create a vacuum later on, which is a pretty important part. But first, Peter's going to start cleaning the gun out with his gunner's worm. Basically just a large corkscrew. He's going to run that down the cannon barrel, not whack Trinity in the head with it.
I wasn't that close.
He's going to run that down the cannon barrel, twist it around a bit, to scrape out solid debris. Now today that solid debris is aluminum foil. It's what we use to wrap our cannon charges. You can see the cannon charges back there, wrapped in aluminum foil. Back in the 1880s, they didn't use tin foil, they used cloth. They used something like cotton or muslin or flannel. You can imagine if we have a small explosion next to a wad of flannel, what do you suppose that flannel does? It burns. It catches fire and burns for a long, long time. So if we're firing something like a 4th of July salute, we don't want to leave that burning flannel down there while we're putting in the next cannon charge. It'd be a very, very bad day for Peter. So the next tool that we have here is called the wet swab. And its job is to extinguish those sparks and flames by introducing moisture into the gun barrel and also, because of the thumb stalling and the width of the swab, creating a vacuum. So by pushing out all of the air, nothing left for those sparks or embers to burn, combine that with the moisture, we're kind of redundantly sure that we're safe to load in our next powder charge. And so when Peter rips this out here, you heard that thunk. That actually means that Trinity's done a very good job thumb stalling. We have successfully created a vacuum. That's the sound of all the air rushing back into the gun barrel. And so we should be safe now to load in the powder charge. That does mean, Trinity, that I will need that thumb patch back. Thank you very much. Now you can successfully retire from the United States Army. Thank you for your service. I will continue thumb stalling now while we put in our powder charge, which is only about 3 ounces of black powder. Now again, to fire that cannonball a mile, we need 20 ounces, more than a pound of black powder. This is much, much smaller. And if we were to fire a cannonball out with just 3 ounces of powder behind it, it might only get about halfway to Marquette Park, which might ruin quite a few people's picnic. So we are not going to fire a cannonball. It's one of just several reasons. We are going to load this charge down with a curved ramrod. This is another safety feature. It allows Peter to stand off to the side of the gun when he's tamping down on live gunpowder. If there was an accident for any reason, if we had something burning down there, we shouldn't, but if we did, Peter would be safely off to the side with that curved ramrod rather than directly in front of the muzzle. Now, back in the 1870s, there was a soldier who was killed on the 4th of July because they failed to properly clean out the gun. So it did go off prematurely, and it did actually kill that soldier. While we're striving for historical accuracy here at Fort Mackinac, we wouldn't like to be that historically accurate. We'd like Peter to survive as long as he can. Now Peter's going to start priming the gun to take out a brass vent pick and run that down the touch hole to rip open our powder, and this exposes that powder to our ignition device called a friction sponge. This is a nifty little weatherproof device that was invented in the late 1830s, and it's just about as old as our cannon here. There's a simple brass tube filled with very fine black powder, and up here at the top there's a friction-sensitive chemical that's called fulminate of mercury. It's one of the things you'll find in a match head. And that's mounted on a pin. When you pull the pin out, it strikes the chemical, which ignites the powder in the tube. That'll send a jet of flame into our main charge and ignite the main charge. The nice thing about this is they're not going to get blown away in the wind. They're not going to get dampened by the rain. So they are fairly reliable so long as this is actually made properly. Some of them aren't. For the most part, we should be pretty successful in firing. We are ready to go now. This would be a good time to prepare your cameras or cover your ears, depending on what's more important to you. And with that, there are just 2 commands to fire, and they are ready, fire! There's our cannon salute to welcome you folks to the fort. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right, folks. The 3rd soldier, Niall, is down there at the bottom of the stairs ready to lead a walking tour if you are interested. Otherwise, if you have any questions, feel free to stick around. Peter and myself will be more than happy to answer those. Otherwise, please enjoy the rest of your afternoon here at the fort. Thank you for coming.
So, what I want to know is, we have a cannon similar to this.